Good evening, everyone, and Merry Christmas. This is BremSter, and this is the third puzzle in my London Streets series. This puzzle is down in Paddington, and like the previous two, this is based on a piece of music by Wren called The Tale of Jenny and Screech. This puzzle specifically based on Violet's tale. It's a thematic thing that I wanted to do. You won't pull too many details out of the puzzle based on this series, but I did try and put a little bit of theme into it. The second puzzle had most of it. If you do check that out, the Tale of Jenny and Screech out, I do give a content warning. It can be a little confrontational and there is swearing in it. But I've been moved by that piece. Probably, and if you do check it out and you aren't too worried about it, I think you'll be moved by that more than you will be moved by these puzzles. Now, these puzzles are a step up in difficulty from the normal fare I try and do on my channel, but the testers were doing most of these puzzles in sort of 30 to 45 minutes, and this one is no different. So we will see how we go. Now, I have scheduled this one for release on Christmas Day, and I hope you are all having a wonderful holiday season. Yeah, I don't really have much to say. I'm recording a week in advance, more than a week in advance. So I just hope that everyone is having a wonderful time of the year and whatever is happening in your life, and you can find happiness and joy. This is going to be a rough Christmas for my family, so we'll see how it all goes. So let's have a look at Down in Paddington by me, BremSter. So the rules on this one are quite simple. So we have, and this one is again going to reinforce a concept I've been playing with a lot, which is 3 cell 15 cages. The previous two puzzles did it. This one is no different. I'm trying to move away from it, but I'm still finding new ways of using this thing that I love. So normal Sudoku rules apply. So in every box, in every row, and in every column, the digits 1 to 9 must be placed without repetition. And then we've got killer. So digits in cages must sum to the number in the top left corner of the cage. Digits may not repeat within cages. So for example, this 10 cage could not be made up with 2 3s and a 4. While that sums to 10 and it is okay by the rules of Sudoku, it is not okay by the rules of killer Sudoku. They're the rules of the puzzle. Don't worry about the colouring of the cages. They are purely there to play with the theme. Digits, there's no mention of colour in the rules. They're nothing to worry about. I'm going to restart the puzzle to restart my timer. Let's give this a shot. Now, the 14 cages being coloured is a bit of a hint as to where to start the puzzle, however. There is only 2 ways to make up a 14 cage. You can only make up a 14 cage with 5, 9 or 6, 8. If you were to start with 9 and go down, 9, 5 sums to 14, 8, 6 sums to 14. After that, you've got 7, 7, and you're working with repeated digits. Now, this means that these 4 cells are filled with those 4 digits. So these cells here are only made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. Now, that puts a lot of pressure on these 16 cages, and I'm actually going to mark these cells in yellow because I'm going to use these as a bit of a notepad. Ignore the cages and everything, because if we look at these, I've got low digits and a 7 to use to fill these 16 cages. Now, if I don't use a 7, because I can't use a 7 in both of these cages, because I've only got 1 7 to play with for the 2 cells that I have to use to fill the 16 cages. If I don't use a 7 in a cage, then the maximum digits I could use would be 3 and 4, which only gets me to 7. So I'd need a 9. I don't want to put a 9 in. I'd need a 9. So wherever I don't use a 7, I must use 3, 4, and 9, because that it becomes absolutely forced where I don't use a 7. So if I use a 7 with a 3 or a 7 with a 4, I run out of options for the other side, because all of a sudden, all I'd have left is, say I used a 7 and a 3 even, then the maximum I would have would be 4 or a 7 and whatever I use. If I don't use a 3 and a 4 in the other digit, I don't get high enough. So if I was to use a 7 and a 3 here, I could use a 4 and a 2 and I'd need a 10. It just doesn't work. I can't use anything less than a 3 and a 4. So and then on the other one, I must use a 7, but I can't use the 3 and a 4. So I'm either using 7, 1 or 7, 2 in the other cage in order to get there. Now, if I'm using 7, 1, then I've got a I've got a total of 8 to get to 16, and the other digit is an 8. Why I keep going back to that mode? And if I use 7, 2, then I'm at 9, and to get to 16, I'd need to use another 7, and that doesn't work. So the cages I'm working with are 3, 4, 9, 1, 7, 8. So this becomes an 8, 9 pair, and this becomes a 2. Now, this becomes all completely forced by looking at this 15 cage, and that's my aid memoir done, by the way. Kind of. I can actually resolve this further, and I'm going to do that first. Let's look at this 15 cage, which I probably should have done first. This 15 cage can't be 6, 9, because if this is 6, 9, this becomes 5, 8, and 5 and 8 sums to 13, not 14. So this is 7, 8, which takes 6, 8 out of there, which takes 5, 9 out of there. But this being 7, 8 means this can't be an 8. That must be the 9, and we know the 9 goes with the 3, 4. So that's not the 3, 4. This is not this is not the 1, 7. This is not the 3, 4. The 7, 8 means this is the 1 and this is the 7, and the 1 and the 7 goes with the 8. And that all becomes forced by these 16 cages having low digits forced around them. Now, this 15 cage can't be 7, 8. This is 6, 9, which forces this to be the 5, and this to be the 9, and this to be the 8, and this to be the 6. And that is the break-in to this puzzle, just to get started. But there's still a lot of tricks to come. So, now I want us to talk about the parity trick with 15 cages again. Now, I've mentioned this in the previous 2 puzzles, but I do want to mention it again. With a 15 cage, or entropy trick, sorry, there's only 2 possible entropic states of a 15 cage. It can either be, and I'll use this cage to explain it, it can either be, and let's talk about box 1 for now to do it, but a 15 cage can have one of 2 entropic states. It can either be 4, 5, or 6, which means it is all middle entropy, entropy being 1, 2, 3 is low, 4, 5, 6 is middle, and 7, 8, 9 is high, or it must have one of each entropy. And the reason for that is, if I use 2 of the 2 low entropy, even the 2 highest, I only get to 5, and this would have to be a 10. So I can't use 2 low entropy in a 15 cage. I can't use 2 high entropy in a 15 cage, because if I use 2 high entropy, then this would have to be a 0 in order to keep myself down to 15. And if I use any 2 middle entropy digits, it doesn't matter which one, the third one is immediately middle entropy. So I've either got all 3 middle, or because I can't use 2 high or 2 low, and the cage be valid, and the minute I use 2 middle, I've got 3 middle, it must therefore be either all middle or one of each entropy. Now, because in a situation like this, I've got 2 15 cages that see each other, and each of them must have at least one of middle entropy. I can't make one of these 4, 5, 6 without breaking the other one. So these are all fully entropic, and because an entire box of a Sudoku sums to 45, 45 minus 15 is 15. This is also a fully entropic 15 cage. But where I want to call this out is here. Now, you could just use something like a killer calculator, or you could do the math and everything to try and figure it out, but you can use entropy to determine this 15 cage very quickly. Because if this was an entropic 15 cage, the only high digit available would be 9. 7 and 8 is gone. The only low digit available would be 3. 1 and 2 is gone. If you add 3 and 9 together, you get 12, and the digit you would need left over is another 3. So it would be 339, which doesn't work. So this cannot be an entropic 15 cage, and it must be 4, 5, 6, which means the digits you've got left over are 3 and 9. There's already a 9 in this cage. This becomes a 3, and this becomes 9. And you can sort that out by using the entropic nature of a 15 cage without having to case the column, which I quite like. Now the question that you want to ask yourself is about 1 and 2 in this column. So we know 1 is in one of these 4 cells, but can you put 1 in this 15 cage? Because 6 cannot go here. So 6 is in one of these cells. But if I put a 1 in this 15 cage, then the other 2 cells in here would have to sum to 14. But we've already discovered that a 14 2-cell cage must either be 5, 9, and I can't put 5, 9 up here because there's already a 9 in the box, and I can't do 8, 6 because there's already a 6 in the box. So the 1 can't go in this 15 cage, it must be in one one of these two. So now the question we want to ask is about 2 in this column. Can I put 2 in this 15 cage? Well, if I did, the other two cells would have to sum to 13. Now, the way you can get to 13 is with 9, 4, but I can't use a 9 in here because there's already a 9 in the box. I can't use 8, 5 because the 8, 5 here would mean if this was 2, 8, 5, the 2 would be here, but I'd have to put 8 and 5 into that cell. And I can't use 7, 6 because 6 is already in the box. So this can't be any of the options with 2 to get me to 13 because 8, 5 can't both be placed there. The 6 and the 9 aren't available. I can't put 2 into either of those cells. This is a 1, 2 pair. And with this being a 1, 2 pair, that's a 7 to complete the 10 cage. These are now 3, 4 and 7 to complete the column. There must be a 7 in here. Now, with a 7 in a 15 cage, the other two cells must sum to 8. If this was 7 and 4, that would have to be a 4, and it doesn't work. This is a 7, 3, this is a 5, and the 3, 7 looks down, making that the 4 and that the 3. That's a little bit tricky, but I don't think it's diabolical. There's more to come. This is 1, 2, and 8. And this is me wanting to play with kind of entropic pressure and sort of, I've been trying to explore killer cages in a different way, and I hope people are enjoying what I'm doing. I know a lot of people think about killer this way just by default, but I'm trying to play with different things. The place that I was looking at next when I was creating this puzzle was actually this row. Because, this 7 makes this 8 and this 7. Now, there is actually some stuff you can do here, which is, I'm going to do first, which is similar to what I mentioned up here. These 15 cages, because they see each other, none of them can be 4, 5, 6. Because if this was 4, 5, 6, they couldn't put a middle digit into that 15 cage and it would just inherently be broken. So there must be a high digit in this cage. But I can't put a high digit in either of those two cells because they see 7, 8, and 9. So this must be a high digit and it sees 7 and 8. So that becomes a 9, that becomes a 6, and that becomes a 9. These now must sum to 6 and they're either 1, 5 or 2, 4. That ability to just use your pressure of there must be a high or a low digit, I just find it absolutely gorgeous. So I think that's as far as I got, and now I want to look here. I could be wrong. Often wrong. Actually, yeah, I might be. Yeah, I'll come back to these 14 cages. So these digits are from 2, 3, 4, and 6. But this 10 cage now has some weird pressure on it, which when I was playing with it, I just didn't expect. So I can't put a 4 into this 10 cage because if I make this 4, 2, they would sum to 6 and this would have to be a 4. If I made this 4, 3, they'd sum to 7 and that would have to be a 3. And if this is 4, 6, I'm already at 10 and this would have to be a 0. There is no 4 here. So I know 4 is over here in the box. But now this can't be 2, 6, or this would have to be 2. So there has to be a 3 in this cage. And I know I'm marking across boxes, but there's no 3 here. And there is a 3 in this cage. If this is 2, 3, that's 5 and this is a 5. If this is 3, 6, this is 9 and this is a 1. And I found that pressure fascinating. It doesn't do much right now. It does something, but not as much as you might expect. What it does do is it means this must be an entropic 15 cage, because if this was 4, 5, 6, both of those cells would be 2. So there must be a high, a middle, and a low digit in this cage. But I don't think I can use that yet. Now, what comes next? I'm not as familiar with this puzzle. It's been a while since I played with this puzzle, so I'm not as familiar with it beyond... I remembered this quite clearly because I found this fascinating, and I found this fascinating. After this, I'm going to run a little bit tight. So, these 14 cages, these, of course, must be either 5, 9 or 6, 8, and this 9, of course, means these aren't 5, 9, so this is a 6, 8, which does put an 8 up here. There is an 8 in this 15 cage, because this 8 looks up. So the other digits in here must sum to 7. And of course, they must be 1, 6, 2, 5, or 3, 4. Well, they can't be 2, 5. So they're 1, 6, or 2, Then 1, 6 or 3, 4. They can't be 2, 5 because that would break the total here. Oh, there's no 5, 9 here either because of this 9. This is also 6, 8, which means that's not the 8, this is the 8. There you go. Wow, that was cooler than I thought. Can I do this 10 cage? Yeah, I can, because there must be a high digit in a 10 cage. Because the way a 10 cage works is 2 high digits is automatically above 10, 2 low digits doesn't get you there. You can't put a 5 in a 10 cage. So 6, 7 and 8 is gone. So this must be 1, 9, and the 9 means that's the 1 and that's the 9. Wow, okay, so these do sum to 7. Now, 1, 6 would be 1, and I can't do 1, 6 anymore because this can't be 1 or 6. 2, 5 doesn't work because it would make this 1, 4. 3, 4 would be in that order, and that's all that's possible. So this is 3 and 4. So there's no 4 in here. This isn't 2, 4. This is 1, 5. There you go. That was a lot easier and faster than I expected. These are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 6 and 7, which hopefully sum to 15. They do. They sum to 15. There is no 7 there. There's no 6 there or 7. That's the 2, which means that's the 6 and that's the 7. Okay, I'll take it. This is a 1, 5 pair in the row. So this is a triple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There is a 3 there, so there's no 3 there. This is a 2 or a 4. There is a 3 over here. This is a triple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I've got this wrong. There's no 1. There's no 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 5 and 7. There's no 5 there. Yeah, not sure. 7 is in one of those two. Okay. Not there yet. Haven't broken the puzzle open yet. I remember there's some real tricks in this box, but I'm not there yet. 9 is in one of those 3. 8 isn't here or here, so 8 is in one of those 3. Now remember, there must be a high, a middle, and a low digit in each of these cages. This is a triple, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, that's a 4 because it sees a 1 and a 5. So this is a 1, 5 pair. Can I do this triple? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, there's no 4 up there, so that's a 2, 3 pair. That's the 4. This is 2, 3, 6. The 2, 3 here means this is the 6, and I can take 6 out of both of those. And this is a 2, 3, which means 3 is down here with the 9 because I can't put 3 in any of those or in any of those. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a 5. So this is not a 5. Cool. 6 is up here with the 8. Not what I expected. How can you not expect stuff out of your own puzzle? So this 9 cage, it's not 1, 8. It could be 2, 7. It can't be 3, 6. It can't be 4, 5. This is 2, 7. Which means this is the 1, this is the 2. There's no 2 in here. This is a 1, 8, which means that's the 7. There's no 7 there, which I got from this. That means there's no 2 down here. What do I just do? Undo that. There is no 7 here. There is no 2 down here. This is a 3, 4 pair, which means this is the 2. This is now not 7. This is 4 or 5. This is 4. This is 5, meaning there's no 5 here. This is a 4, 6 pair. But this 5, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is a 9, which means this is not a 9. Okay. Definitely cool. 9 is in one of those two because that 9 sees all of those, that 9 sees all of those, that 9 sees all of those. I'm going to get rid of that pencil mark. This still could be 2, 3. If this is 6, these would have to sum to 4. Yeah, that still works. Now, this is an entropic cage, but I could put 7 or 8 down here. I can't put 9 in this cage. I can't put... So these are 1, 5, 7, and 8. There must be a 7 or 8 here because I can't put 7 and 8 in the cage. So this is 7 or 8 with 1 or 5. I think I remember this being a thing. So if there's a 7 in here, if this was 7 and 1... that would sum to 8 and that would have to be 7. That doesn't work. So I can't put 7 and 1 in here. If it was 7 and 5, 7 and 5 sums to 12. So I could do 7, 5 with 3. And that seems to be okay. If I did 8, 8 and 1 would be 9. And that would be 6. So that doesn't work. If it was 8 and 5, that would be 8 and 5... So there must be a 5 in here is what it's saying, because I can't do 8 and 1, because 8 and 1 would need this to be a 6, and 7 and 1 would need that to be a 7. None of those work. So there's a 5 in here. So this is the 1, this is the 5, and this is a 2 or a 3, because 7 and 5 needs this to be a 3, and 8 and 5 needs this to be a 2. So this is a 2-3 pair. So this is a 1-9 pair. That's interesting. How does that resolve? With better scanning than I'm doing. So there's... Right. There's a 5 in one of these. There was something... There was something. Is it this total now? If this is 1, these would have to sum to 14. But the maximum here is 10 now. This can't be a 1. The maximum here is 10. So this is a 9. This is a 1. The 9 here means this is not the 9. This is the 9. These have to sum to 6. So there's no 6 here. 3 would mean this has to be a 3. So this is the 4, this is the 2. The 2 makes this the 3, this the 2, this the 3. This being a 3 means these have to sum to 12, which means they are 7 and 5, which means this is the 8. There's no 3 here. There's no 2 in either of them. That's 6, that's 4. 3 and 6 is 9, so this is the 1. So this is the 5. The 4 makes this the 3. The 6 looks up making that the 8 and that the 6. The 2 looks up making that the 7 and that the 2. The 5 and the 7 I don't think are resolved quite yet. Now these have to sum to 6 and they can't be 1, 5. So these are 2 and 4. So this is the 3 because I can't put the 3 there. There's no 5. This is a 2, 4. The 2 here makes that the 4 and that the 2. The 4 looks across making this the 6 and this the 4. The 6 looks back making this the 8 and this the 6. The 8 looks across making this the 1 and this the 8. That's this 15 done. Now these are also a fully entropic 15 cage. There's 3, so these have to sum to 12. Well, I need to put a 1 in this cage somewhere, and I can't put it up here because I need to put a low digit in it. This becomes the 1, this becomes the 5. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There is a 7 and an 8 here, so this becomes the 6. 1 and 6 means that this is the 8 to get the total right, and that becomes the 7, and that does sum to 15. The 7 looks over making this the 3 and this the 7. The 3 looks over making that the 2 and that the 3. The 1 here looks over making that the 5 and that the 1, and the 7 looks down making that the 5 and that the 7. And that is a way of solving down in Paddington. Now, I did heavily rely on the entropic trick and, of course, some eliminations using math down here, which I think are probably not necessarily the trickiest part of the puzzle. I think the break in here requires you to do a little bit of thinking and then realizing that 1 and 2 is restricted in this column. And then there's a few entropic 15 cage tricks in these boxes, as well as realizing that you can use entropy on these cages a little bit to force some stuff I think is important as well. But I did want to sort of make these a little bit challenging, and I wanted people to find something fun. I hope you enjoy the puzzle. I hope you get some time to enjoy them over the holiday break. And I hope you enjoyed my London Streets series of puzzles. Have a good holidays, everyone. And yeah, please leave messages of goodwill, I suppose. If you've only just found the channel, please subscribe and like and comment and all of that good stuff. And if there is, as always, submit puzzles, recommend puzzles is always good. I'm going to go into 2024 and try and figure out what I can do to contribute more to the community if I can. It's always a bit of a journey. And yeah, jump over and join my Patreon for free, where you'll get notifications of stuff that's happening in the community if I can, and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm just going to try and keep doing what I'm doing and stress a little bit less about it all. Thank you everyone for watching, and as always, good luck with your solving.